Well, I drowned my sorrows in the news that DeAnthony Melton is out for 5 to 6 weeks. I thought I would record a lovely little week in review podcast because that will at least take our minds off the crap. Welcome, everybody, to week 4 in review here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Vespris, and I am, as per always, enthused to have you all around. And for those that are uninitiated, these week in review shows, we go through basically like the last 5 days or so of basketball, give you guys in some order the ads, the drops, the holds, the updates on prior ads. I'm actually adding that into the mix. I thought that might be kind of fun. Injury replacement mega board, the guys that we should be worried about, the guys that we shouldn't be worried about, the guys that are ready to get dumped, the watch list, the Heat streamers, all that good stuff from these last. We don't really go back to the weekend because that was what the Monday show was for, but this is going to roll it all together into one big weekly reset. What happened this week? And hopefully that continues to be fairly useful for you all. Before we can get into that, because I know I'm going to forget if we get rolling and I don't do it, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA, college basketball, to NHL, to the UFC and MMA. BetOnline. Get there today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here. I knew that if I was to start the show, I would get 30 minutes in and then remember that I forgot to do that. So got that out of the way. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I can't do it really on this one because we just have this big board to go through. But on the recap shows, hope you guys enjoyed that. On yesterday's, we had sort of like the heavy dose stuff right at the beginning. And I'll try to keep that going as we get into recaps going forward. Anyway, here we go. Follow on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DanBesbris. Old Man Squad is the network feed on Twitter. My handle on Blue Sky is Old Man Squad because someone had already taken Dan Vespris. That's not me. And it's Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. Please hit that like button on YouTube. Subscribe however you're taking in the content. Please, please, please do that. And then if you have a moment to drop that 5-star review, that is also quite useful. We're going to start with the injury board, which for the second week in a row is 2 freaking pages long. So this is not even all the names. Why do we do the injury board? First, I do this little PSA at the beginning of every one of these shows. It's because in the past, we had the ads and the drops and all that stuff, and people started yelling at me in the middle of the show because I was doing it live. Hey, where's so-and-so? Where's this guy? Oh, so we're knocking out the big one right out of the chute. Injury board. We don't have to spend that much time on this. It's relatively straightforward. I'll just give a sentence or so on each player and how I feel about them. So let's get going here. These are generally ordered in confidence, not exactly like, basically I took the burger board that's available in the linked, very free Google Sheet that's in the show description, and I pasted it by chunk into this sheet. So Scotty Pippen Jr. with Ja Morant out. This is like part of the 2 burger guys. Peyton Watson with Aaron Gordon out, Brandon Boston with the entire Pelicans out, and Gradey Dick with a whole bunch of Raptors on the shelf. Those are your two burger board guys. The 1 burger board guys, Malik Beasley, because it sounds like Jaden Ivey might be back for Detroit's next ball game. We'll learn more soon enough, I suppose. But Tim Hardaway Jr. is doubtful, so we think at least one of those guys will be out. And if they're both out, then you might be able to push Beasley up 1 more rung. Goga Bitadze is a 1 burger guy. Wendell Carter Jr. is the guy missing. Royce O'Neale, 1 burger with KD out. Bennedict Mathurin probably deserves to be a 2 burger guy with Aaron Nesmith on the shelf. I just keep thinking that the other shoe's about to drop, and so that's why I haven't moved him faster. Kevin Huerter, we pioneered a name for this on yesterday's show. We call it a double-decker. Basically, if multiple guys that are in the way are out, you get it's like an in-and-out type of thing. We're doing a double-double. There's a 3x3, 4x4, all that kind of stuff. So like Brandon Boston is like a 5x5, and Gradey Dick is a 3x3, and Malik Beasley is a double-double, and Kevin Huerter's a double-double because there's 2 guys out. 2 guys out of the way. Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan although DeMar is doubtful, so he hasn't been ruled out yet. And if both of those guys are out, then it's a wide open path for Kevin Huerter. Davion Mitchell is the guy with Emmanuel Quickley on the shelf. Jared McCain is iffy because, he had a massive, massive game with Joel Embiid and Paul George on the shelf. Those guys are going to be back most likely for Philly's next ball game. And even though Tyrese Maxey's out, so McCain will see minutes and he'll get some shots, he's not going to have the playmaking duties that he had when those two guys were not in there. So everyone's going to be going nuts for Jared McCain, and I have this weird sneaking suspicion he's going to get like 17 points and 2 3-pointers on good free throw numbers and not much else. Maybe I'm being a little bit too conservative there, possibly, but it was pretty clear why he got to do more. Ochai Agbaji, now we're kind of getting into the more like the half a burger or zero burgers. He's been so efficient with Barnes and Braun and Olynyk and quickly out in Toronto that he's been able to kind of float not much in the way of counting stats. And I until we see that go away, we kind of just have to roll with it. But I still feel like at some point here, the shine's going to come off. Couple of bucks on the list, super not at all trustworthy bucks. Gary Trent Jr. and DeLon Wright. This feels like if Dame, Middleton, and Ryan Rollins are all out, then one or maybe both of those guys is potentially playable, but also they're pretty low on the do I actually want to do it totem pole. Yeah, there's 8 more injury guys. Grant Williams, because of both centers out in Charlotte, so that's a double-double. No Mark Williams, no Nick Richards. Zachary Risa-Shea, although DeAndre Hunter might be back for the next ball game, so then we'd remove Risa-Shea from this board because I don't think just Bogdanovich being out is enough for him. I think there needs to be 2 guys out of the way. Bub Carrington with Malcolm Brogdon on the shelf. I like Bub. He's been fun. Kelly Oubre with so many Sixers out, but he'll come off this board if indeed Paul George and Embiid are back in. Rui Hachimura, I almost took off this board altogether, but he started to warm back up again, and I'm inclined to believe that it's the start of a little bit of a warmer stretch for Rui because he is a little streaky that way. So he's maybe you could even think about bumping him up to a single burger if we think he's going to run hot. Santi Aldama with Ja and Bane still out for the Grizzlies. Donovan Clingan, who had a huge game when both Ayton and Robert Williams were out, but it sounds like Robert Williams is probably going to be back. So Clingan gets demoted from a surefire play to more of like a 50-50 kind of dude, if indeed DeAndre Ayton is the only one of those guys that's missing. And then Gershon Yabusele, that was with Embiid and Drummond out, just something to keep in mind the next time that happens. Let's get into the new ads, also including the reminders. So this is new ads and reminders, and I specify that because there's going to be another page I added to the board this week called How Did the Other Ads Do? And do we need to shift them at all? These are the guys that didn't need to get shifted in my mind, or maybe like a little bit of an annotation, but no big value adjustment. The new ones on the board are Kris Dunn, Robert Williams, and Marcus Smart. We'll start with Kris Dunn, who got bumped into the starting lineup for the Clippers on Wednesday night. Man, I'm so sad that DeAnthony Melton doesn't get to be on this board, that he got healthy and then got hurt in like a 2-day span. But Kris Dunn was awesome. He made the Clippers so much better when he was on the court. I'll repeat the stat that I talked about on yesterday's pod. The Clippers lost that game in Houston by 8. Kris Dunn was a plus 11 in his 31 minutes on the floor. In the 17 minutes he sat, they were a minus 19. Yeah. Coincidence? No, because there were only other 2 Clippers that were a positive. Derrick Jones Jr. was a plus 4. Kobe Brown was a plus 8. And I think some of that was garbage time stuff. So, I mean, there's a little bit of that going on, like what lineup you're in. But still, like most of the damage came when the Rockets bench came in and just decimated Houston's or the Clippers rotations because they're not particularly deep. They have a lot of guys, but they don't want to play that many of them because Clippers don't trust Jordan Miller or Kobe Brown or Bones or Kevin Porter Jr. most nights, and Nick Batum is a broken down old horse. Kris Dunn had 11 points, 4 boards, 8 assists, 2 steals, a 3-ball on 5 out of 10 shooting. He's not going to get that many threes, but he rebounds well, he assists very well, he steals very well, and his percentages are not bad. And you roll that all together, and that's a very, very useful 9-category fantasy stat set. So I want a whole bunch of Kris Dunns, especially now since I can't roster De'Anthony Melton anymore. I got to go Kris Dunn all the way into the stratosphere. Time Lord is an ad in Games Cap Roto formats only. So this is, again, one where we have to put a little bit of a notation on it. You're not going to pick up Robert Williams in head-to-head, for one, because Portland's schedule is dog-doo right now, but also because he's going to skip the back-to-back, which means that for the Blazers, who starting after their game on Wednesday, let's forget that today's Friday for a minute, they had one game over 6 days, 2 games over 8 days, and then a back-to-back after that. But Time Lord's going to miss one of those 2. So he only has 3 games over those 11 days instead of 4. It's even worse. So there's just no way you can roster a guy like that in head-to-head because back-to-backs happen, and regularly in the modern NBA. But in Games Cap Roto, I'm all about it because anytime Ayton sits, anytime Klingon sits, like as we can trim this center rotation by a little bit, that's juicy. And then on top of that, if Robert Williams gets moved at some point this year, which it feels like they should at least be trying to do because, veteran-ish on a tanking team, he drops right into a whole bunch of value. So that's intriguing because whoever picks him up is going to want to play him. Lakers, Pelicans, whatever. Somebody's going to have some kind of room for a center, and they're going to want at least 16 minutes. And maybe, like, if it's the Pelicans, it might be mid-20s. He's a top 40 guy in mid-20s minutes. We've seen that before, even if his body's not quite what it used to be. Marcus Smart is probably rostered in your league, but it felt necessary to put him on this list because he was hurt for a while, and so he got dropped in a lot of leagues. And now he's back, but Ja and Bane are not. So Marcus Smart, actually only 25% rostered on Yahoo. Meaning he's out there somewhere. He's available. Actually, he's available in half of my cash leagues. That's a surprising number. I don't, by the way, think that Marcus Smart is going to have value when the Grizzlies are fully healthy. I don't think there's enough for him to do. But right now, he's the point guard. When Ja and Bane are around, he's, basically one of like 3 or 4 point guards. Now it's Smart and Scotty Pippen Jr. So there's assists to be had on top of his usual solid showing in steals, usually threes and kind of bad field goal percent. But you can overlook a little bit of that if there's some usage, which right now there likely will be as he gets himself ramped up. That's surprising. I didn't think he was going to be available in that many spots. Anyway, so yeah, he's available in more spots than expected. Check your league too, even if it's only for a couple of weeks. And now we get into the reminders. Not that you need them. Tari Eason, this is a second reminder on Tari Eason. Shaedon Sharpe, this is a second reminder on him, especially if you're punting field goal. That's the direction to go. This is a 4th reminder on Bilal, Christian Braun, and Dyson Daniels. And now we can officially take them off the board. So you guys are watching me do it in real time. They have been here for 4 weeks since, well, for Dyson Daniels, it was before the season even started because he was on our list of flyer guys. And now you guys get to watch me take these 3 dudes off the board, and ba-bam. Those guys are now officially just on rosters. They are no longer ads. Once a guy is a rest of season ad for 4 weeks in a row, you can officially just call them a fantasy play, and they don't need to be talked about on this show. This is the updates on prior ads board. I'm going to be doing this with anyone from the ads list that requires some sort of other attention. So Alex Sarr, who had been on our ads board for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, he now slides into the hold category. An important note because he has been trending down, but there's so much improvement to be had. I said something about this on social media, and somebody was like, no, he's a disaster. He doesn't know how to shoot. It's like, brah. He's been in the NBA for 3 weeks. Of course, he doesn't know how to shoot. Nobody shoots well when they get into the NBA if they're expected to actually do anything. Sarr's going to get better every month as this season goes. He's already pretty decent. The dog days might hit him a little bit come, January time after the holidays. That's when you sometimes see rookies hit a little bit of a wall. But he'll come bursting out of the other side of that, and I can almost guarantee it's going to be an insane post-All-Star break. But the nice thing about Sarr is that he's doing enough now to make the hold a little bit easier. Jaden Ivey was on the ads board for a week. I felt like we needed to add a couple of notations on what format he should be rostered in because I've been talking about it, but I didn't write it down. In my mind, he's a head-to-head only play. Jaden Ivey, his percentages, his turnovers, all that stuff will just ruin you in Roto. He's number 178 because his turnovers are way high. His free throw stinks. His field goal percent is poor. His defensive stats are not very good. The assists and the rebounds, like they kind of feel okay, but they're not really enough given the fact that his scoring is kind of the only positive right now. Maybe assists by just a tiniest bit. I think you can get away with Jaden Ivey in head-to-head if you're punting free throw, because you probably don't care that much about turnovers anyway. But otherwise, he doesn't make... Like, he's not a 9-cat guy. And then PJ Washington, I had to downgrade into a soft hold here because he's just vanished with this knee injury, and they've given no real indication of when he might come back. I want him on my fantasy team. I want to hold through this because I felt like he was actually on his way up from where he was with percentages that were, frankly, unsustainably bad due to shooting 38% at the free throw line so far this year. But we don't know when the hell he's going to show back up again. So I'm trying to hold as best I can while also understanding that for all of you and myself, it's not indefinite. He's not good enough for it to be indefinite. Here are the guys where the hold is quite clear. Amen Thompson. We kept saying it all year long. Try to hold. Try to hold. You can make it. If you really put your mind to this, you can definitely hold on. And now you're starting to reap the rewards a little bit. He got that start for Freddie VanVleet. The bench unit for Houston is tearing it up even when the club was healthy again in their last ball game. Steals and blocks are great. Rebounds are great. Field goal percent is solid. And opportunity is starting to show up a little bit for Thompson. So that's a much easier hold to describe this week. Jonas Valanciunas got bumped up a little bit. He was in the soft hold category, but now he's in a clear hold category because it actually kind of seems like the Wizards are going more towards JV at the expense, weirdly, of Kyle Kuzma. Alex Sarr sliding down a little bit more. So JV's doing the thing we expected him to do, which is to be relatively high usage during the 20 minutes he's on the court. And he's number 91 right now in 9-cat because of good percentages and just being extremely active on the offensive side. Colin Sexton is the next clear hold. He's still quite bad on the season to this point, but he's slowly getting better. I really would like to see some more assists out of Colin. I would like to see more than an average of 26.5 minutes out of Colin. I think both of those things get a little bit better with the minutes, maybe the easier target, because with assists, you've got Keontae George. He's the lead horse. Then you've got Jordan Clarkson coming in. He's running some offense. Larry Markkanen's going to run some offense. It's just not as easy this year for Sexton to get fantasy stats. And so right now he's a hold, but it ain't forever, and he's hovering right for me on the borderline between a clear hold and a very soft one. Drew Holiday has some good news. He finally got a few defensive stats on Wednesday night, and his value jumped up inside the 11th round. And again, he's legitimately just one more game with a couple of defensive stats away from being an everyday startable fantasy player. This is why you hang on, because you could just look at it and go, oh, you know, Drew Holiday had played 8 games, and I think he had a grand total of 1 steal and 1 block. Now he has a few more. He's at what? 6, 7 steals, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. It's coming slowly. But at some point, he's going to push up near one of each of those, and then his value is going to rocket up where we expected it to be. So everything is fine. It's all just leveling off. Everybody take a deep breath. And then Bobby Portis is the other one, because right now his field goal percent is way lower than we wanted. He's at 45.5%. That should get up closer to 50. We also assume that a steal or a block probably trends up a tiny bit as well. Everything else for him is relatively predictable. And the only note is that Brook Lopez and Giannis haven't really missed any time yet. I think there was just one game in there. If I'm not mistaken, Giannis missed 1, and Portis went crazy, and then he probably would have gone crazy in the last one. The sock just fell off while I'm doing my show, but he was out. It's good news for Portis when Dame is not there. We'll see if Bobby gets to play and Dame doesn't, because then it's going to be a bunch of shots for him. So hang on. There's all these avenues for him to creep up into better value that he hasn't really been able to see yet. Here's my worry list. I'm not dropping any of these guys, but I am worried about them for whatever assortment of reasons. Jabari Smith Jr., whose minutes have been in real trouble lately. He is barely rosterable in fantasy leagues because he's getting outplayed by Tari Eason and or Amen Thompson. And I don't know that that's about to change, but can he get himself back into a position where maybe he'll outplay a Dylan Brooks, or maybe there'll be a day where he does outplay Eason or Amen Thompson, or maybe the Rockets decide to go even smaller on a particular day if someone like a Şengün is getting outplayed. These are all these little avenues. But, and I said this yesterday, Jabari Smith Jr. is someone that I don't have on any of my fantasy teams. Not one. I got 10 Yahoo Cash leagues. I got some Fantrax leagues. I got leagues bouncing around in different places. Not one of them features Jabari Smith Jr. So I'll admit it does make it harder for me to say, here's what you should do with him, because I never thought that highly of him anyway. That said, he's much worse right now than anybody expected him to be. I think we probably might. We're teetering on the brink of being able to cut, but I don't think you should, because it feels like there's a bottoming out thing going on here, which is the case for D'Angelo Russell later on this same list. So probably stick it out a little bit longer. Dante DiVincenzo and Mike Conley, both these guys need to be held for now. I know it's difficult, but both of them struggling with field goal percent. Conley in particular, as he gets his shot to drop, you'll probably see him get to do a little bit more. He's been kind of reticent to fire, trying to work guys in. The Wolves are bad when he's not the guy steering the ship, and he hasn't been the guy steering the ship all that much this year because he's just not playing well. And then with DiVincenzo, you're hoping more for the steals side. It's just going to be an up and down year. Wendell Carter Jr., I'd love some kind of indication of when this dude is coming back, Orlando. It's plantar fasciitis, so I guess they don't really know. At some point, it's going to feel a little bit better, and that could be tomorrow, or it could be 3 weeks, so it's hard to say. You can probably cut Wendell Carter Jr. if you want. I might give him till the end of the week to see if we get any kind of positive update. But if not, then you could probably let go. Herb Jones is also a very difficult hold, but if you've made it this far, you probably want to stick it out, because what if he gets back before some of these other guys? And he was going to have a role anyway. Clint Capella is a hold, but only because he's been playing better for the last 3 ball games. Ultimately, I think he ends up as a drop, as I do for basically all of the centers on the Hawks right now, because Larry Nance Jr. is taking center minutes, and now the Hawks have 3. D'Angelo Russell. This one, I talked a lot about this on Wednesday's show. No, Thursday's show. Sorry, I got to get my days right. D'Angelo Russell's bottoming out. We're at that point of this is as bad as it's going to get. He's unfocused. He's taking bad shots. It's gotten worse after a slow start when it looked like it should get better. Not just because he got benched, but because he's making bad decisions with second units. That's a group that he should be dominating. He should be taking teams' bench units and just wearing them out. With pick and roll, shiftiness, whatever, and instead he's just firing contested threes that have no shot of going in. He's still one of the team's best three-point shooters when he's on, and ultimately they're going to need him because Gabe Vincent is really, really bad this year, and Dalton Connect gets into these heaters, but he's not an orchestrator. They need D'Lo either as a trade piece to bring in someone else or to be a more competent version of himself again. So you're at a flex point where, unfortunately, it's probably going to get worse more before it gets better. But at some point, it's going to hit that bottom, and that's when he starts to rebound. So this is when you can buy low on D'Lo, and you can get him for nothing right now. Absolute pennies on the dollar. Just understand that it's probably going to take a few weeks for this thing to sort itself out. It's not going to be overnight. Onyeka Okongwu, just like Capella, is on this list. I am very worried. I have not totally cut bait yet, but it does sort of feel like a matter of time. He's number 117, and nobody's getting consistent minutes for that club at the center spot. So probably bye-bye. And then Jonathan Kuminga, and I know everybody's going to kill me for this one. I was kind enough to pull him off the cut board and put him at the almost cut board, and that's just because DeAnthony Melton is back out. Is there a little bit more that he'll be able to do? I mean, do we see Buddy Hield come roaring back into the forefront again? Because you could see the Warriors wanted it to be Melton. And once again, D'Anthony's body couldn't take it. So mad. So sad. Deep sigh. All right, these are the cuts. Unfortunately, D'Anthony Melton helms the cuts board. He was going to be on the ads board, and instead he's on the cuts board. So he managed to make it through both ends of the fantasy spectrum within 1 week. You can't hold on to a guy like him for 6 weeks. It's just too long. Roto, I mean, maybe because you could tuck him on an IL spot. But head-to-head, I wouldn't even blow an IL spot on him because you're probably going to need it for someone else. Now, if you have plenty, fine, squat on it, but most of us don't. Deni Avdija was a very easy drop as soon as Shaedon Sharpe reared his head. Ben Simmons has been a drop for weeks. Alex Caruso, Trace Jackson-Davis, these guys have all been drops for weeks. You don't need me to go through the reasoning on those again. If you need me to go through the reasoning on Ben Simmons, I would just sort of like tap the monitor. Guys, he's played 8 of their games so far this year. He's averaging almost exactly 24 and a half minutes every single night, and he's number 162. It ain't close. It ain't close. He needs like another 6 minutes a game, and that's just not happening, at least not soon. And then Caruso's barely playing, and Trace Jackson-Davis is barely playing, and Jeremy Sohan is on this list for the same reason that D'Anthony Melton is, and it's because there's still a month, probably more, before these guys that, and frankly, I'd rather hold on to Melton because at least in 9-cat, we've seen him roll top 75 before. Sohan, he's still a bit of a punt guy, so I'm very willing to move on there. Watch list got a little bit meatier this week. Here's some names. What is it, like 10, 11 names we keep an eye on? AJ Green is a name on the watch list. He had a pretty good game for Milwaukee there last time around, and it probably related to the fact that a bunch of guys are out because AJ Green had a good game 2 games back, I should say, not in their most recent one. So watch list at best. I don't think we're going to end up doing anything with him, but he's starting, at least right now, while the Bucks wait on different guys to get back in the mix. Larry Nance Jr., could he actually overtake guys for that job in Atlanta? Is Larry Nance the answer for the Hawks at center, or is this a showcase to get him traded to a place where he would play more? Man, the Pelicans miss him right now. I don't know where he would get traded that would give him enough minutes to be fantasy relevant, so that's why he's more of a watch list guy for now. Haywood Highsmith is on the watch list in case he actually can consistently fill in for Jimmy Butler, and I don't trust it after 2 games of not much production besides steals. Musa Diabate, that is, I guess Miles Bridges related. Watch list. I don't have the confidence to throw him in there. I know he's had double-digit rebounds 3 games in a row, but I need to get real drunk before I make that pickup. Dalton Connect, watch list. I don't think his rebounding or his defense is good enough for him to play big minutes every day, but if he gets hot, he will. And then if he can learn any of the other stuff on the fly, because, again, rookie, but watch list. Same story for Stephon Castle. Really nice watch list guy, but it does seem like being able to guarantee there's enough on a game-to-game basis is probably a stretch, especially with Vassell working his way into a more consistent, larger number of minutes. So watch list on Castle as well. Watch list on Jonathan Isaac, who finally cleared 20 minutes for the first time this year. And, of course, the moment he did, he posted a big, fat fantasy line. If it happens again, I'm adding him in a games cap format. Not unlimited games head-to-head. You can't. That's no. I mean, because he's going to play 4 minutes, and then he's going to sit for a week, and then it's going to be a huge pain in the butt. But if there's any kind of consistency developing with Jonathan Isaac, we want to make sure we're kind of out in front of that in Roto leagues only. Caleb Martin is on my watch list. He's had 2 good ones in a row for Philly. It's hard to say exactly where he ends up as the team gets healthier because his shot profile is going to get a lot easier as the team gets healthy. But will there be enough for him to do? If he's playing full starters minutes, sorta, you're probably looking at like 115, 125 range is a better case scenario. So I don't think we need to jump on this one. but we'll keep an eye on it. We're keeping an eye on Ayo DeSumo, and we have been basically since Lonzo Ball went down. But now it sounds like Ball might be close to a return from his wrist injury, and that'll take away a bunch from DeSumo, and Ball will start to slowly ramp up again. And then we get to add him back to the watch list and probably take Ayo off. Nisi in New Orleans is on my watch list. He's been okay. He moved into the starting lineup, and things didn't go great for a little bit, and then they got a little bit better, and blah, 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 blah. I need to see more before I make that add. DeAndre Hunter sounds like he might finally be healthy enough to play for Atlanta. And as much as I feel very certain, I don't think it's an if. I think it's a when. It's a when DeAndre Hunter gets hurt again. We can cast him off into the ocean. But if he comes back and plays, high 20s in minutes, there are enough shots available in Atlanta for him to make a little bit of a stink. Because Trey will be the number 1. Jalen Johnson will be the number 2. I think you could argue that Hunter is going to be the number 3 offensive option ahead of Dyson Daniels, who is taking a lot of shots right now, but it's because everybody's out. And then Jalen Wells, I don't have any confidence there, but we'll leave him on the watch list just because it doesn't really hurt us to leave him on the watch list. Well, how much energy does it take to just go, hey, before we close down the window for the night, how did Jalen Wells do? Oh, yeah, not that great. Okay, keep going. This is the exact same as last week. The Streamwell hot guys. Peyton Pritchard, and he might stretch this out the entire year because the Celtics are going to rest people regularly. And every time any one guy is out, Pritchard is getting a nice, big, hefty bump, usually from like the 23, 24-minute range to more like the 28-minute range. And that's more than enough for him to post value. I will begin to worry, I think, again, about Pritchard when Porzingis comes back, because that pushes Horford to the bench. That pushes more minutes. Not that like this, Horford and Pritchard are not sharing the same minutes, but the team will be more willing to go big if they have more big guys they trust. He might make it the whole year. The rest of these guys, I don't think have any shot at making it the whole year. Closest would be, well, Buddy Hield now with Melton going back down. But Buddy Hield is a Streamwall hot guy, and likely that'll be the next 6 weeks because now he doesn't really have to worry about anybody breathing down his neck. Karis LeVert already looks like he's cooling off. Malik Monk is hurt right now, so Kevin Huerter, the injury replacement burgers supersede the Streamwall hot board. So temporarily you can just put a strike through on Kevin Huerter's name because he has so much opportunity right now that he wouldn't normally get without a double-double of players on the shelf. But once those guys are back, those guys meaning Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan, then Huerter goes back to just being a play while hot guy. Jordan Clarkson is a prototypical Streamwall hot dude that's been that way for about 3 seasons running. Lou Dort running warm these days. He's also there. And then I think we mentioned Karis LeVert, who's already starting to cool off. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your week in review. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll have another show coming up for you in just a few hours, a big 30-team weekend preview. We're going to look at every single damn ball club. We're going to look at all the angles involved in them. That way you know exactly what you're looking for over the weekend. You don't have to be as locked in. You don't have to be as piped in. You don't have to be as attached to your computer to get all the updates all weekend long, because guess what? We all have stuff. We got family stuff on weekends. We got plans on weekends. It's harder to just be glued to the phone or the computer screen to know exactly what's going on in the NBA at all times. And if you have a plan going into each card on the weekend, then when you're doing a check towards the end of the night, bing, bang, boom, you just look for the things that you were already looking for. This is a way to spend, and that show's coming up in a few hours. This is a way to spend 20 minutes preparing for the whole weekend. That'll ultimately save you 40 to 60 down the line. So paying it forward. We're going to be efficient with our time. We're going to line up everything we want to be paying attention to, so that way when we check it, boom, you can make that decision on the fly, quickly, painlessly. That's what the big weekend preview show is for. We'll have our week 5 preview show dropping at some point over the weekend. I don't know when. And then, of course, Monday morning, We'll loop it all back around. Big reverse chronological lightning round. We'll look at all those 30 teams over the weekend and what they ended up doing and how that tied into what we were looking for, what ads to make, drops, all that good stuff as we continue to carry ourselves through this NBA campaign. Good start. By and large, a good start to the year. We got some really good pickups going. We got some really nice late grabs. Having fun. Are you? I hope. Whew. The grind is on, man. Close your eyes. Hunker down. Rumble forward. Let's keep making good decisions with our teams and in life. And that's where we go from there. Remember to hit subscribe before you leave this thing. Hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Those 5-star reviews as well. Apple and Spotify. Spotify one is so easy to do. I wish Apple would do the same. With that one, you got to go to the show page and scroll all the way to the bottom. And that's where you can do it on the podcast app. I will see you guys on Twitter over the weekend. I insist upon it. It's Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Again, I did open up a Blue Sky account under the name Old Man Squad. And that'll just be some of the Twitter stuff ported over for the time being. Old Man Squad is also the network feed on Twitter, Old Man Squad Fantasy on Instagram. Have a great middle of your Friday. We'll talk to you in a couple of hours with that big weekend preview. Again, I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. My home, my land, my network, I guess. So fun, though, to have all these. We had a new show. I don't even know if I mentioned it. Maybe we should talk about that on the next one. We added a new show. 2 guys, 1 Roto. Baseball fantasy. We're expanding the baseball side, so that's very cool. Shout out to our new show here on the Old Man Squad. Now officially I'm out, and now officially I'll see you guys later. Adios.